Welcome to the video tutorial on how to use the succession planning framework that has been created for the disability services sector. The framework is intended to help you strengthen organizational capacity to build up a ready talent pool for different leadership levels, support effective knowledge transfer, and identify potential successors for mission-critical roles. Succession management should be an ongoing endeavor for an organization of any size. And for it to be effective, it must be approached with a holistic lens. Not one-offs, but creating a ready talent pool at all levels. This should be every organization's goal. What is included in the succession planning framework? The Succession Planning Framework Guide is available in a PDF format. The tracking aspect of the succession planning process has been created in Microsoft Excel. Several worksheets have been included in one Excel workbook called Succession Planning Dashboard. This workbook should be used in conjunction with the PDF guide. Several resource tools have also been developed. Succession Planning Checklist, Emergency Leadership Planning Template, Mentoring Program Guidelines, Mentors Toolkit, Knowledge Transfer Plan Template. These tools have been created in Microsoft Word so that each organization can complete the templates directly in the documents, make any necessary changes, and tailor them according to each organization's needs and preferences. What is included in this video? This video will provide a step-by-step tutorial on how to use the Excel workbook and the resource tools. This video will not cover the substantive content that has been included in the guide, such as benefits of effective succession planning, critical success factors for effective succession planning, and integration of succession planning with other talent management processes. All this important content can be found in the guide and should be reviewed before beginning the steps to the succession planning process using the Excel dashboard and resource tools. You need to have the foundational knowledge as to why your organization should be doing intentional, more formalized succession management, what factors you need to consider to do it effectively, and how it should be integrated with your other talent management processes for a more robust, holistic approach to your workforce strategy.
Let's now look at the four main steps in the succession planning process. Number 1, identify critical positions. Number 2, identify critical resources. Number 3, develop and monitor talent pool. And number 4, review the plan. This can be found starting on page 22 in the guide. The chart shows that organizational strategy should precede step 1 and is foundational for succession planning. Please use the Excel workbook Succession Planning Dashboard as you go through each step in the process. Before starting the process, ensure that your organization has up-to-date, well-written job descriptions that clearly list responsibilities of each role as well as the competencies required. I cannot emphasize enough how important this is as foundational for succession planning. Step 1. Identify critical positions.
What is a critical position? A critical position, if left vacant, would have significant impact on the organization's ability to conduct normal business, could create operational, reputational, or financial risks, and compromise the progress of the strategic priorities or organizational performance. These positions are usually at the executive or senior management level, but can also be other levels of leadership or a subject matter expert with specialized knowledge and skills.
Please go to the first worksheet, Critical Positions, in the Excel workbook Succession Planning Dashboard. When assessing if a position should be considered critical or not, you need to consider the impact of the role, knowledge and skills required, and the replacement difficulty. On page 23 in the guide, please review the questions you can ask yourself to help you rate each position. For each position, use the following scale when choosing your answer. 1 strongly disagree, 2 disagree, 3 somewhat agree, 4 agree, or 5 strongly agree. Highlight the number on the Likert scale for impact, skills, and replacement difficulty. Add up the 3 numbers you highlighted for the total column. An example has been provided for you to help you complete the worksheet. Positions with a total of 12 or higher would be considered critical. Add up the total number of critical positions and input it into the highlighted cell at the bottom of the table. Adjust the table as needed by adding or deleting rows if there are more or less critical positions. Rule of thumb: although the number of critical positions will vary for organizations, typically no more than 15 to 20% of its positions are usually identified as critical. Step 2. Identify critical resources.
The goal for this step is to identify the high-performance, high-potential employees or critical resources to be part of the talent pool who could move into the critical positions identified. Your goal is to have the organizational bench strength. This means having a talent pool that is ready to move into critical positions immediately in the short term and medium to long term. When determining who should be identified as a critical resource, an easy way to remember this is the acronym PACE. P stands for potential, A stands for aspiration, C stands for competence, and E stands for experience. The following inputs should be used to identify your critical resources: performance ratings and reviews, specific accomplishments like special projects, cross-functional committee work, feedback from other supervisors and managers, past work experience related to the critical position. For example, an employee was in a leadership role in a different organization or for a charity they volunteer for. Related education to the critical position, such as business or leadership diploma or degree, and related professional designations to the critical position.
Please go to the second Excel worksheet, Critical Resources. This worksheet is broken down into 6 different tables: executive leaders or C-suite, senior leaders or directors, mid-level managers, frontline supervisors, frontline employees, and specialized or other roles. To help you complete the tables, you can do the following. Export a report or reports from your HRIS using filters that can identify high performers, such as performance ratings and annual reviews. Export report or reports from your HRIS that tracks performance goals, including L&D goals, and then create a report using filters that can identify employees interested in career advancement. You may still need to gather some of this data manually to complete the tables. If your organization does not have the systems in place to get reports digitally, you can send out a copy of the worksheet to gather the data. Someone will then have to complete this worksheet by going through all submissions and populating the tables accordingly. An example has been provided for you to help you complete the worksheet. Evelyn Jones is currently the Director of Group Living. She aspires to becoming the Chief Executive Officer. Her main strengths have been included, as well as some key accomplishments. Her past related experience and education related to the critical position has also been included. You should do this for all high-performing, high-potential employees at the various levels. Adjust tables as needed by adding and deleting rows if there are more or less employees for each group. Once you have populated the tables, add up the number of total critical resources you have and input it at the bottom of the worksheet in the highlighted cell. Do the same for the other 3 statistics. Example totals have been inputted so that you can later see how these totals automatically populate certain cells in the succession planning metrics worksheet. Step 3. Develop and monitor talent pool. After identifying your critical resources, it is important to develop and monitor the talent pool. Please go to the third Excel worksheet, Develop and Monitor CRs. It includes 5 tables by leadership level so that you can easily see the following for each CR: readiness to move into the desired critical position, knowledge, skill, and ability or KSA gaps to move into the critical role, developmental goals to reduce or eliminate the KSA gaps, and progress on meeting the developmental goals. However, before you complete the worksheet, as mentioned on pages 15 and 16, ensure that your organization has effective performance planning in place so that specific learning and development goals are set with timelines. As your organization thinks about developing its critical resources, keep in mind the 3 E's of talent development: education, experience, and exposure. For each CR, enter the information in the table for a snapshot of the readiness of your talent pool for critical positions. Please note the Executive Leaders table is for organizations that have C-suite positions such as COO and CFO. To help complete this worksheet, an example has been provided. We will continue with Evelyn Jones, a senior leader, who has been identified as a critical resource to move into an executive role. Rate each CR on their readiness to move into their desired critical position within the timeframes in the drop-down list. For Evelyn, she will likely be ready to move into the CEO role in 1 to 2 years. Please note, for the last option, is not suitable for this role, has been included because an employee may desire to move to a critical position that may not be a good fit. Please also note that as an organization, it is good for varying readiness timeframes in your talent pool to move into critical positions. Identify their knowledge, skill, and ability gaps and list their developmental goals. Up to 3 knowledge gaps with corresponding development goals and 3 skill and ability gaps with corresponding development goals can be included. Having more than 6 development goals may be overwhelming and potentially unachievable for the employee. Drop-down lists have been used for the respective cells to help you complete the tables. These drop-down lists are the KSAs needed to advance into the desired critical position as listed in the overarching L&D strategy in the framework. For example, when I click on the example with Evelyn Jones, the knowledge gap list is what is needed to advance into an executive role. For Evelyn, the first knowledge gap is about understanding funding contracts, fiscal responsibility, budgets, and financial reporting. Her development goals include completing her MBA, which includes an accounting course, and setting up coaching sessions with the controller. A column for goal progress is also a part of the worksheet, so you can track the status of goal completion. You will see that 2 other knowledge areas have also been identified for Evelyn. You can then move over to the skills and abilities gaps column. Again, there are drop-down lists that you can choose from. For Evelyn, she needs to develop stronger communication skills to speak publicly more effectively and with confidence. A specific development goal has been identified, and there is a column to track goal progress. Please note, for specialized and other roles, there are no drop-down lists and will have to be inputted manually as it will vary depending on position. Other knowledge, skills, and abilities may be required for each level, but the ones listed on the lists were selected because they tend to be the ones that require the most development for advancement in this sector. Adjust tables as needed by adding or deleting rows if there are more or less employees for each group. Please note that the Critical Resources worksheet is used to identify why they have been included on the list, such as their strengths, accomplishments, and qualifications. While this worksheet is to be used for identifying the gaps and learning and development goals, so the CERs are ready for advancement into a critical position. Step 4, review the plan.
Succession planning is never finished. With constantly changing workforce needs, these plans should not be static, but living documents that are adjusted as needed. The data in the Excel workbook succession planning dashboard should also be updated regularly as staff changes occur and the readiness level of your CRs change as they achieve their development goals. Along with the Excel workbook, your organization should also be reviewing your succession planning strategies and programs annually. For example, if you have implemented a formal mentoring program and specific knowledge transfer strategies, these should be reviewed and adjusted as needed. Recommendations. Set a firm date. If a firm date is set for the review, it is less likely to be put off to the side and forgotten. Review in conjunction with the annual review of the strategic plan. Since strategic plans should also be reviewed annually, it would be a good time to also review succession planning.
Please go to the 4th worksheet, Succession Planning Metrics. There are 3 main tables on this worksheet for your organization, to help you track and measure progress, including 1, number and percentage of critical resources ready to advance into critical positions, including number of CRs. 2, recruitment statistics to show how many critical resources are being interviewed and are successful in competitions for critical positions. And 3, turnover of critical resources and reasons for their departure. Use the other worksheets as needed to help complete the tables. Some of the data you have inputted in other worksheets should automatically populate some of the cells in the tables. As you can see, the first table has already been populated, and you can see the percentage of critical resources ready to advance and the ratio of CRs to CPs. For recruitment statistics, an example has been provided for you. For the Manager of Community Services competition, there were 7 interviewees, of which 4 were identified critical resources. You are then able to see the percentage of CRs that were part of the competitive process. The example shows that David Ramos was successful and is an internal critical resource. Keep as much info as you can for competitions to fill critical positions so that it is easier to see if successful candidates are an internal critical resource, internal but not a critical resource, or external. If an internal candidate that is not a critical resource is successful, then you need to be asking yourself why this person was not included in your list of critical resources. It is also important to track the turnover of your critical resources and the reasons for their departure. This is important data for workforce planning and strategies for retention. Add up the total number of CRs that have left the organization. When I put in a number, you will see that the final table automatically gets populated. Adjust tables as needed by adding or deleting rows or formatting cells. Please note that certain cells with formulas or data are locked. As noted previously, it is important for organizations to include a few key diversity metrics. The main form of diversity that has been included in the worksheet is the tracking of visible minorities, including the pool of critical resources and how many are advancing. Since the sector is so culturally diverse, this is the main form of diversity that has been included in the worksheet as a tracking priority. Each organization may choose to track other forms of diversity and can do so by adjusting the worksheet as needed. The first resource tool is the succession planning checklist. It is an audit tool for you to gauge what strategies you already have in place and where the gaps are to help you plan your workforce strategies for the next 6, 12, and 18 months. A comprehensive list of strategies has been listed and can easily be checked off in the document. This will make it easier for your organization to see what should be implemented. The section on the first page, "What is the current strength of your organizational talent pool?" can be populated once you have completed the Excel workbook. Having this data on the checklist as well can give you a quick snapshot of your talent pool readiness for planning purposes. The emergency leadership planning template should be completed in every organization because of the 3 kinds of unexpected absences that could occur. 1, an unplanned temporary short-term absence that lasts between 1 to 3 months. 2, an unplanned temporary long-term absence which lasts between 4 to 12 months. And 3, a permanent change. You should have a plan completed for the CEO or executive director position. You may also want to have a plan in place for other executive or senior positions. That is up to your organization to decide. This template includes naming the designate or designates, who is responsible for the different key responsibilities, location and access to confidential information that only the CEO or ED knows and has access to that is critical for business continuity, authority and compensation of the acting CEO or ED, the communications plan, and the succession policy for a permanent change. There are slight variations to the 3 kinds of absences. For unplanned temporary long-term absences, your organization should also consider whether recruitment to the temporary position left vacant by the acting CEO or ED is necessary. For an unplanned permanent change, your organization should decide how the search and replacement process will be conducted. The Mentoring Program Guidelines provide steps and tips in developing a formal mentoring program in your organization. A sample mentoring program has also been provided in the appendix. It includes application forms for mentees and mentors, as well as an evaluation template to assist you set up your own program. This Mentors Toolkit should be used in conjunction with Resource Tool Number 3, Mentoring Program Guidelines, and given to all of your mentors as a resource. In this toolkit, there are 3 main sections. Section 1 explores the close relationship between mentoring and coaching and the 6 modes of mentoring. Section 2 provides a basic mentoring process to follow with your mentee and suggested do's and don'ts. Section 3 offers 4 mentoring tools to draw upon. Tool 1, the first meeting notes. Tool 2, powerful questions. Tool 3, the grow model. And Tool 4, mentee questions to interview mentor. The Knowledge Transfer Plan template is designed to help your organization develop an overarching plan to assist with creating a knowledge sharing culture. The following are the 4 steps in the knowledge transfer process. Step 1, identify the knowledge you need to gather and from whom. Step 2, identify how knowledge will be obtained and transferred. Step 3, execute the knowledge transfer plan. And Step 4, measure and evaluate. A comprehensive list of knowledge transfer methods has been provided for you. Most organizations will already be doing at least a few, if not several, of the listed methods. The table on page 3 is to provide you with a snapshot of the knowledge that needs to be transferred in your organization and how and when it will be done, while the next table is for a specific role with a known departure date. And like the succession planning checklist, sections have been provided on the template that you can use to plan what strategies you want to implement in the next 6, 12, and 18 months.
We hope that you have found the succession planning framework and resource tools helpful so that your organization can take proactive steps in being more intentional with succession management. We encourage you to take the time to invest in developing, implementing, and reviewing your workforce strategies regularly. This will help your organization achieve its strategic goals and better prepare for the future.